This aircraft can carry a missile that you might have some troubles with when the patch is released. Hello guys, once again it's Matt, thank you all the members and patrons, make sure to subscribe. And I wanted to talk about the MA1 Piranha, guys. This is the new missile for the Brazilian AMX, and of course I'm excited about this aircraft and this missile because they are Brazilian and I'm Brazilian, but at the end of the day I really wanted to make a video about the missile itself because it's one of the best in the game. It is kind of weird. It's kind of weird. So we're going to take a look on some of the performance, the theory behind the missile, and how it's supposed to perform. As you see, I don't have the aircraft here to test it out against players, but it doesn't matter too much because we need to wait for the game to be released in the full form of it. So we're going to get to a test flight over here, fly around a little bit, fire some of these missiles, and talk a little bit about the performance of this thing. And in the future, that you should be kind of scared about this missile to a certain degree. Not really scared. I mean, it's just a very cool missile to have. It's not like gonna break the game or anything like that, but still it's pretty cool. But yeah, guys, this is the main missile for a lot of the aircraft, and I gotta say, I mean, the Brazilians, we use a lot of missiles. We used to use the R530 back in the day, the AIM-9B and stuff, with the introduction of more modern missiles, the Piranha was the real deal, in the 90s, especially later, And of course, the Piranha 1B, and of course the Python 4 and Python 3 during the 90s and 2000s and stuff, and more modern, times. So there are multiple missiles that we used, but this is like the main one that was back in the day, in the 80s and 90s, developed basically internally, right? The 1B, I think which is the improved version of this, has like 80% of the missile being built in Brazil. So, of course, we have a pretty substantial amount of, industrial power in the sense of building civilian aircraft. But military stuff was kind of always a little bit behind the curtains a little bit, it was always lacking a little bit in the sense of that. So having a missile such as this being almost entirely built here, it means a lot for us, right? So it is very cool to see this missile in this aircraft. This is a must-buy for any Brazilian. Like, you will see, if you see this aircraft flying, 90% of the chances it will be a Brazilian player. Like, I guarantee to you. So what is the performance of this aircraft? We're not going to talk too much about the history or anything like that. Let's just talk about the performance of the missile. So there are many things that are similar to other missiles. The mass is very similar to other missiles, similar to the AIM-9. But there are some interesting things that we can talk about. At first is the delta V. As you can see right here, the delta V of it is better than some of the missiles that we already have in the game. They are one of the best missiles in the game, like the MatAWG, the R60. So it's already up there in this terms of energy, right? And it has a very interesting engine. It's very similar to the MatAWG. So instead of having a weak booster with a very long time like the R73 or the AIM-9, or having a very strong booster for a very short period of time and then a sustainer like the Python, it has a very similar thing like the MatAWG. It burns for a very short period of time with a very strong booster, and that's it. So 2.1 seconds with a 27 kilonewtons of force. So it's 0.1 seconds less than the MatAWG, but with 2 kilonewtons more, bringing the delta V, which is basically the energy of the missile in meters per second that it has to accelerate, right, in the terms of 750 meters per second compared to the 740. So it has a very substantial amount of energy, and it has a very good TNT equivalent as well, very similar to the MatAWG and Python, right? It's basically in the middle between the R73s and stuff and the MatAWGs and Python. So it's up there, right? So everything right now, it means that it is up there with the energy. Not the most amount of energy, but it has plenty of energy for a dogfighter missile. It's not going to be a long-range missile, okay? It's going to be a dogfighter missile. And it has plenty of TNT to actually explode a target. Just remember, it has kind of a small proximity fuse for such a large amount of TNT. But still, it is pretty interesting. If you take a look on the guidance properties and flight characteristics, you can see some other things that you can worry about. For example, the delay of starting to guide. It is one of the largest ones here, compared to other missiles from the same era and, performance. Same as the Python 3, but 2 times more than the MatAWG, and like way more than an R-73 or other missiles like that. So it does take a little bit more time to start turning, okay? But it compensates with the Gs and everything that we're going to talk about. The first thing that it kind of compensates with is the amount of fin AOA, and the fin lateral acceleration. This is both the angle of attack of the fins of the missile that can pull a lot, almost the same as the Magic. I mean, not almost the same as the Magic, but better than the R-73, for example, which is pretty good. Of course, the R-73 has the thrust vectoring to help, but still, it is pretty good for a missile that doesn't have thrust vectoring. And the maximum fin lateral acceleration is almost as good as an R-73, so it brings two things from, like, it's on par with other missiles. A little bit worse here, a little bit better there, but it's on par with one of the best missiles, like the best missiles of the game in general, right? So although it takes a little bit more time to actually start turning, when it turns, it goes to that fin AOA very quickly, and it's a very high fin AOA, making this missile, with the energy that it has, be able to pull a whopping 45 Gs, which is better than the R-73, better than any other, IR short-range missile in the game. So yeah, guys, this little missile from Brazil actually turns better than all of these missiles. Remember, of course, this is a 90s missile. It was built later, obviously, than the R-73, later than the Magic 2. It was basically on the time frame when the Python 4 was being added, the R-73M was being added, and the Mika IR was being added. So I'm not saying Brazil is, obviously I'm kind of biased, of course, towards Brazil, but I'm not that biased. Understand that there were a development gap there that we took a little bit, like 10 years to get to the same performance as other nations. But still, like I said, for the first missile ever produced here, and like almost in 100%, it is a pretty substantial amount of performance. And in the game right now, for a 10.7 aircraft, it will be pretty incredible. But notice one thing, it doesn't have an IRCCM. So this is probably the saddest thing about this actual missile. This will be the best turning missile at certain situations in the game. Or I'm not gonna say the best, because of course the R-73 with the thrust vectoring can maintain the 40 Gs a lot more of the time than something like the short range Piranha, but still it is on par there, right? And the other thing that you have to consider is that it is just a 10.7 attacker that use two of them. It's not a fighter that can go fast and surprise attack. It's not going to be a top tier aircraft or anything like that. So at the end of the day, it's a missile that, although it has a lot of performance, where it's used, it's going to be amazing, but it's not going to be even fighting stuff that has those missiles normally, right? So yeah, that's probably a good and a bad thing at the same time. The good part about it is that, of course, the Piranha will not have to face R-73s and other stuff like that would probably outperform it. But at the same time, the missiles that you will be facing with this aircraft in the Piranha will be what? R-60Ms, A9Ls, stuff like that. And there, the Piranha takes the cake, right? So it is a very, very good missile, guys. Really, really good missile. And the cool part about it is that the EMX A1A is not the last aircraft that can carry this missile. There are multiple aircraft that Brazil produced and upgraded to actually carry this missile. And not only this missile, the 11B as well, the Piranha the MAA1B, sorry, instead of the AA1A. The B variant has IRCCM. It turns better. People say even 60 Gs, it would be on par with Python 4s plus, like missiles from that era. R-73Ms and better missiles like that. Of course, being a much more modern missile, like from the 2010s or something. But still, like, it would be very, very cool to see that. And of course, with different aircraft, like the A1M, for example, which is the upgraded, modernized version of the A1, or the F5EM, which is the modernized F5. It's just that we need to wait for Gaijin to decide to add more Brazilian aircraft. We don't have a lot of options, but maybe for a full-fledged tree. But for event vehicles, for premiums, here and there, there's a lot of options. And I mean, I mentioned 3 of them that could be, the A1M, probably for the Italians. but the F5E, for example, EM could be for the Americans, with the Python 3, Python 4, Derby missiles, and the Piranha 11B, A1B, sorry. So it would be very, very cool to see these aircraft, because they're all their aircraft upgraded to be able to carry these things. Even if I'm not mistaken, there are rumors, I couldn't confirm it, but our Mirage 2000s back in the day actually used this missile as well. So it would be cool. Imagine a Mirage 2000 with the Super 530 and the Piranha. It would be a very cool event vehicle or something like that. For sure, it would be way more fun than the Mirage 2000 CS4 that they added, right? That it's literally the same aircraft with just less countermeasures than the C5 that is in the Tech 3, right? So, honestly, like, Gaijin could add a lot of these aircraft that they probably don't even think about it. I don't know. It's just weird to choose some of these event vehicles and squadron vehicles when there are so many options for so many countries that could bring a lot to the table. But yeah, guys, this is the Piranha, a missile that you should expect to see in the channel, and you should be, you know, keep an eye out, because you will see a lot of angry Brazilians flying with a lot of these AMXs filled with Piranhas to kill your precious 10-point plus BR aircraft in the normal matches. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.